I'm going to rank everything that I've done over the years, with 10 being the hardest. Without a doubt, the Ireland run was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. An absolute 10 out of 10. 570 kilometers in 138 hours, just under 3 marathons average per day, a 6-month training block which was exhausting, and the run itself which was so extremely mentally and physically challenging. But that being said, it was also extremely rewarding. 50 marathons in 50 days. Another 10 out of 10. The main reason why this challenge was so difficult because I was silly enough to do it just 2 months after the Ireland run. My body was still recovering, and the first 3 weeks were an absolute agony. Waking up every morning in January when it was cold, miserable and raining outside, and forcing myself to go outside to run a marathon was extremely mentally difficult, but once again super rewarding at the end. Ironman. This one was a solid 8.5. In my opinion, doing a very fast Ironman is extremely difficult and it's probably closer to 10, but completing the distance itself is pretty manageable as long as you have the training done. For me, 2 weeks before the race, I had blood clots and I was barely able to walk, and yet I still managed to complete it. So in my opinion, yes, it's difficult, but it's not the worst thing out there. 12-hour endurance race. This one is a solid 9, and hear me out why. Yes, I'm putting it slightly harder than Ironman, but the reason behind it is because you're literally fighting against yourself the entire thing. You can go as slow as you want, you can go as fast as you want, and technically you'll still finish the race once the 12 hours are over. But because the entire point of the race is to run as much as humanly possible in 12 hours, you're literally fighting against every single demon in your head telling you to stop running for those 12 hours, and your body is just fighting back and not wanting to move. And as the time progresses, it only gets worse. Marathon. This one is a solid 8 out of 10. Like with an Ironman, doing a very fast and all-out effort marathon will be closer to 10, but completing the distance itself is pretty manageable once you have the training done. And I would even go as far as to say that the more experience you have with marathons, the easier it gets. For me personally, I think my first marathon was much more mentally and physically challenging than my last one. My first one was 3:23 and my last one was in Boston, 2:43. Yes, Boston was 40 minutes quicker, so technically it should be more difficult, but because of my lack of knowledge at the time about fueling, preparation and training, my first marathon was a disaster. Hyrox. This one is a solid 7.5 out of 10. Yes, a very fast Hyrox will be very difficult and you need to train for it, but completing the event itself is pretty manageable. I would say the most difficult element of Hyrox event itself is managing the heart rate, because it is essentially a non-stop 1 hour HIIT workout. And for me personally, the worst thing about the entire event were the burpees, and I hated every second of that station.